if I told you that Bob Dylan wrote one of the greatest love songs of all time? But unfortunately, the world completely ignored it. Up until a 19-year-old girl from London brought it back from the dead.
To make you feel my love.
This is the story of how Adele turned this forgotten Bob Dylan song into a masterpiece. In 1997, Bob Dylan walked into a dimly lit studio and recorded a piano ballad. He handed the world a rare gift, a love letter whispered more than sang.
Listen to it. Bob Dylan wanted them to capture the sound of those 50s records that he loved so much. That was his favourite era of music. He said the technology hadn't got to a point where it was doing more than what the artist could do.
His version of the song was beautiful and deep, with minimal backing. But almost no one realized what they were hearing.
It was just capturing what the artist could do in the studio in the best way possible, and that's what he loved. So it had that kind of authenticity about it.
It was a simple song, recorded with sparse, spectral piano and somber organ textures. As a result, it simply lacked the power to grab the listener's attention. And that simplicity would become both its curse and later its salvation. As the months passed, the song struggled to gain traction. No one expected what would happen next. Over a decade later, the song was rediscovered. In 2008, a 19-year-old artist from North London was recording her debut album, named after her age, 19. Her name was Adele. Adele's manager, Jonathan Dickens, aware of her vulnerability and intense emotional state while recording, played the track for her.
Make You Feel My Love, the Bob Dylan cover. When I heard that, the album's finished and we had another song that we then took off to put Make You Feel My Love on it.
When she heard Make You Feel My Love, the lyrics immediately resonated with her. The song reflected a poetic and direct declaration of unwavering commitment. It was an instant, overwhelming connection. However, something was missing. She wasn't just covering a legend's work, she was sparking a piece of truth back to life. What she heard in that song, no one else did. That conviction led her to the microphone, where a few minutes of tape would erase a decade of silence. Adele later said the song perfectly expressed everything she was trying to write herself. She knew that she had found something rare. The lyrics bridged the folk wisdom of Dylan with her own modern vulnerability.
That song, and I've read the lyrics, and they're the most beautiful lyrics I've ever read, or heard, or sung, and they just kind of summed up everything that I'd been trying to write in my songs.
But loving the song was only the beginning. She then allowed a cover to be one of the emotional pillars of her debut album. Unsurprisingly, this was unusual, even risky. Adele understood its power, simple but strong, quiet but bold. The song's innocence was a blank canvas waiting for her voice. But the studio fought with her over it, not understanding that this forgotten song was the key with which she unlocked some of the most raw and real feelings on her record. What the world didn't know was that Adele was fighting for her truth. The lyrics were her shield.
Complete and finished, when I heard that, it just kind of summed up. And if my album was a shape before I heard that, the album was kind of like that. And then when I did it, it kind of became a whole circle.
The journey from discovering the song to getting it on the album was anything but smooth. Adele initially didn't even want a cover because she worried it would make her look like she couldn't write enough material. But the real pushback came when she pitched the idea. Hesitation hit immediately. A Bob Dylan cover? On a young soul artist's debut? It didn't fit the commercial blueprint. The consensus was that a Bob Dylan cover, especially one so understated and outside the contemporary pop framework, didn't quite fit the sound of a fiery young artist. They worried that it clashed with original tracks like Chasing Pavements and Cold Shoulder. Tensions rose inside the studio. Some believed the song was a detour that could derail her breakthrough. But this is where Adele made a career-defining stand. Her entire debut was on the line, and she was risking mainstream success for a quiet, unknown song. What no one expected was the rock-solid certainty in her voice. She faced pressure to drop it and record something more marketable. Her producers warned her it didn't match the powerful pop sound of her singles. One producer told her, "It's too safe, too slow, and too old." Adele didn't flinch. She leaned forward and said, "You're wrong. The song is the soul of the album." She fought for it, and she won. The decision was final, and the result would change everything. Now she just had to deliver it. What came next wasn't a cover, it was a reinvention. Just the voice raw and exposed. That was the mandate when Adele and producer Jim Abbas went to work. Together they stripped the song back, just piano, space, breath, and emotion. A simplicity so bold it felt cinematic. But this was where the magic happened. She stripped away any unnecessary complexity. The arrangement had to be as naked and honest as the lyrics themselves. The song was completely devastating. She wasn't copying Dylan. She was reclaiming the emotional core, pouring her own heartbreak into every line. Her voice created a vulnerability that made listeners stop and admire the music. A performance that felt like a confession whispered in the dark. The Forgotten Deep Cut became a timeless modern classic, a global standard of emotional expression, and it happened almost instantly. For millions of listeners worldwide, Adele's version became the definitive one that finally unlocked the song's full potential. Her tone, her texture, and her emotional honesty gave the song everything it was missing. She poured her entire 19-year-old experience of love and regret into the performance. This was early proof of her unique gift, taking deep personal feelings and turning them into huge global hits that everyone could relate to. Her delivery made the song feel like it was her new song, not a cover. But in reality, she had taken something overlooked and turned it into an anthem. The transformation of Make You Feel My Love was massive. It was different, but it was the emotional core of the album. Originally peaking at a modest number 26 on the UK charts upon its initial release, the song began resurging again and again, powered by Adele's skyrocketing fame and its widespread use in the media. It soared past its initial obscurity, moving from an overlooked album track to an immediate, indispensable staple of significant life events across the world. It became a soundtrack to life itself. Weddings, memorials, finales, heartbreaks, and reunions. Wherever emotion peaked, the song followed. Its cultural footprint exploded. The message of unconditional love became both universal and personal. A modern hymn that was made relatable through Adele's delivery. Even the song's legendary creator, Bob Dylan, reportedly offered his high praise for her powerful interpretation. In the end, his love song turned out to be great, but it was just waiting for the right voice. Adele's voice. In the end, this wasn't just a cover. Adele brought the lyrics back to life, turning a forgotten song into a timeless anthem of love and vulnerability. Sometimes, all it takes is one voice to make a masterpiece unforgettable. What was your favorite song on Adele's debut album? Let us know in the comments below.